Hello everybody, welcome to your afternoon topic lesson, and this afternoon we are going to be continuing looking at life in ancient Greece. So as you can see, I'm sharing my screen with you and I'm just going to start talking through the slides, but you do have a lot of independent research to do today. So please revisit these slides. It will be on Google Classroom as well, but you do have to carry out your own research using the links that I've put on Google Classroom. So let's find out what we're doing today. We are going to be writing a diary entry from the perspective of somebody who was living in ancient Greece. So we're learning what life was like in ancient Greece. We're focusing on diary writing, so we're going to be looking for first person pronouns and emotive language. The purpose of this is so that we can explore and compare daily life in ancient Greece with our own life in 2021. So we're looking at developing our empathy with people from the past. That means trying to connect with similar situations or similar feelings, even though we share a lot of differences with people. And I will be assessing your work by looking at and evaluating whether what you have written is descriptive, whether it is an effective diary entry, so it has lots of personal feelings in it, but also that you've put in and slipped in there some key facts about life in ancient Greece. So let's learn a little bit about life in ancient Greece. So ancient Greece had a warm, dry climate, just as Greece does today. Climate means the type of weather that you get. It is different to weather, but we'll look at the difference between climate and weather in another geography lesson. So really what it means is what the atmosphere is like, what the land is like. It's a very dry sort of climate. Most people in ancient Greece lived by farming, fishing and trade. That trade means when you might go to market and sell something in market, so your business is selling something to other people. If ancient Greece people weren't farmers, fishermen or tradespeople, they would often become soldiers, scholars, scientists and artists. Ancient Greek was full of many remarkable people, lots of incredible scientists and inventors, some fantastic sculptors, very, very fierce, brave soldiers, and lots of what we call free thinkers and philosophers. And we actually base a lot of our political system and democracy on things that were thought of in ancient Greece. So ancient Greek life is so incredibly important to our own life today, because there's lots of things we do that we only do because people in ancient Greece started doing it, and it's become a tradition and it's become part of our collective memory that is what we do in our life now. So let's find out about the everyday life. So not about these remarkable people, about the everyday life for normal people. Greek cities had beautiful temples with stone columns and statues and open air theatres where people sat to watch plays. So in our music lessons, we have talked about how important music was for people in ancient Greece. So remember, lots of people couldn't read or write. Only very, very rich people or people that worked in religious buildings, so in the Temple of Zeus or the Temple of Aphrodite or something like that, they would have to read because they might read religious texts. But usually everyday people, just everyday families, if you weren't very, very, very rich, it was unlikely that you would learn how to read and write. So therefore, music was the only way that stories could be told to each other. And it's easier to remember stories when we put it in a song or in a play. And that's why the theatre and music became so important. And if you remember as well, the ancient Greek people dedicated gods to different parts of their life, to different aspects. And for music and drama and the arts, there were actually 9 goddesses called the Muses, and you will have looked at them in your music lesson. If you haven't logged on to that, please go on to Google Classroom now to find out all about Greek music and the 9 Muses. So most people, however, didn't really actually live in the Greek cities that were beautiful with temples. They lived in villages or in the countryside. And many Greeks were poor and life was hard because farmland, water and timber for building was scarce. that's because of the dry climate. So there's not a lot of rainfall over there, which means the land isn't very moist, and that makes it difficult to grow food and things like that. So it could be very difficult to live in ancient Greece if you didn't live on the right sort of land, or if you didn't earn enough money to kind of travel to these other places. And it says here that's when many Greeks sailed off to find new lands to settle in, because the land that they were living on is what we might call hostile. It wasn't, it couldn't support all of the life that was living in ancient Greece. So we had the cities versus the countryside. So when you come to write your diary entry today, I will be looking for descriptions to give me a clue as to whether your character is in the city or is it in the countryside. Let's find out something else about the Greek houses. So again, this is if you were a very rich Greek person. And the reason we know lots about rich people in history rather than poorer people in history is because, like I've said before, rich people could read and write. So they ended up writing their stories down and drawing pictures, and their parts of history have survived. And actually not a lot of stories from the poorer communities in all over the world in history don't always survive, but that doesn't mean that they didn't live amazing, incredible and fascinating lives. It's just that the source material we go from, unfortunately, is a bit one-sided, and sometimes it only shows us one aspect of that life. So keep that in mind, not just now, but as you go through your school life and as you learn more about history. We might only be learning a little part of what actually happened, and that's something that we have to constantly remind ourselves when we're being historians. So these houses that you can see on your screen here, as I've said, they would not be a house for everybody. These would be rich people who lived in these houses, and it wouldn't just be their family. As you can see over here, if I put my little laser pointer on, this one here actually says slaves' room. So ancient Greece, was their communities were built of Grecian people, and we had lots of rich Grecian people and lots of poor Grecian people, people in the cities, people being farmers, working on the fishing boats and things like that. But actually it was also made up of lots of people that weren't from Greece, that they had conquered other countries and they had brought them back to Greece as their slaves. And sometimes even Greeks were used as the slaves as well. I think it really depended on whether you were rich or not, whether you were going to be a slave or not. So you can see that houses actually had a special place for people who were the slaves to live in as well. And when we talk about the word slave, let's remind ourselves that that is quite a nasty term. We don't have slavery in our modern Western society today, but unfortunately throughout history there are lots and lots of examples of slavery, and that's when other people are taken from their homelands, taken away from their families, and they're forced to work against their will. And there are lots and lots of sad stories about slavery that you'll probably come across throughout your years in Leaf Forest and in secondary school, and you'll learn lots and lots more about it. But in ancient Greece, it was kind of expected that richer people would own slaves, and these slaves helped to look after the children, to keep the home clean and tidy, to go to the market and do all the shopping. And basically they waited hand and foot on the lady of the house, the wife, the mother of the house, because the man would go out to work or be a soldier or go and do fishing or go and trade at market. And he expected actually women and girls had to stay home. They weren't allowed to go to school. They didn't learn very many interesting things beyond cooking and sewing and mending things around the house and things like that. So there were some very interesting dynamics in Greek homes. Let's have a look at the actual buildings then. So we can see that in ancient Greece, they had gotten to the point where they could build layers in their houses. They could build different levels. So there would have been stairs, as we see here. And as you can see, a lot of it is quite open. Lots of open walls and verandas and foyers and things like that. And that's because of how warm it is in Greece. If we were in Britain, like we are now, and we wanted to go out onto our balcony, if we had one, we might have to put a coat on because it'd be raining, it'd be cold, we might not want to go out there, it's windy. But in Greece, the climate in ancient Greece was so balmy and nice and warm that they actually had to build their houses with more open spaces so that the temperature didn't rise too much. We needed lots of open spaces for the air to circulate, to cool them down. So when you write your description in your diary today, I want to read a lot about the size of your house. Have you got open spaces? Is it a closed house? Use these pictures to inspire you. Okay, and look at both of these pictures. In fact, all three of them, they've got this huge courtyard in the middle there where they would hold outdoor parties for religious celebrations, for birthdays, for big family feasts. But having an open courtyard in the middle of this house for these types of families was standard. It seems like a luxury to us today. I'd love a big courtyard where all my family could come and visit me, especially during the lockdown. But in ancient Greece, it was just standard that most people who owned houses, so again, remember we're talking about the rich people here, they would have a big open courtyard. So please come back to these pictures here to help you fill in any description that you're going to write in your diary entry. Right then, so ancient Greek homes were actually built around the courtyard or garden. The walls were often made from wood and mud and bricks, and the windows didn't have glass, but they did have shutters to keep the hot sun out. There wasn't much furniture inside again. Lots of life in ancient Greece was spent outside, on the plains, in the market, and outside in the courtyard. So a lot of the furniture is built outside as well. Lots of the material that they used would only be wood if they were very, very, very rich. So maybe, I don't know, an emperor or something like that, they might have things like marble. But for the everyday person, it would just be wood. They didn't have plastic in ancient Greek times, and they didn't really have metal readily available. They would for the soldiers and for jewellery and for cooking and things like that, but not really for building materials. A lot of it was out of stone or wood. This one's interesting here. This is what I find quite interesting. Many homes didn't have a bathroom. There were public baths, but most people washed using a small bucket or in a nearby stream. So lots of people would actually, again, go outside into nature, into a natural flowing stream to go and have a wash, which we wouldn't do that today. That sounds really, really silly to us today. I think we'd be very cold and a little bit embarrassed. But in ancient Greece, that was part of daily life, was going and having a wash with lots of other people around you. This is the best bit though. Only rich women enjoyed baths at home. So not even their husbands or their children, just the rich women, and they had their slaves carry the water. So think about the type of character you're going to be writing your diary entry from, and think about whether they would actually have a bath or not, or would they have to go down to the local stream. And then the last point here is about how they slept. So their beds would have been very, very different from ours. It's stuffed with wool, feathers, or dry grass. I'm not sure that would be the most comfortable bed, but it was the most comfortable materials that they had available at the time. Most people went to bed as soon as it got dark, and the only light came from flickering oil lamps and candles. They didn't have alarm clocks. They didn't have phones like us. They didn't even have wristwatches where they could tell the time and it would tick automatically round for them. The only way that the people in ancient civilizations could tell the time was the sun outside. As soon as it was light, it's daytime. If it goes dark, it's nighttime. So staying up later into the early hours and when it gets dark and something, that's something that's developed over history. Our ancestors didn't always do that because they didn't have all the electronic gadgets and all of the components to our lives that we have today. So let's look at your task now. The first thing you need to do, I've given you a little bit of information. I told you about the Greek climate, the Greek country. We've learned about Greek music, and I've taught you about the physical building of a Greek home. But your job now is to follow this link here, BBC Bite Size, and you'll find a page that tells you lots of the information I've just told you, and then some more. If you scroll down, you will see this picture here, and it says click on the family below to find out a bit about their life. I want you to choose just one of those family members. So we've got the man here, and we've got a woman here, we've got a little boy, we've got a little girl, and we've got a woman here with a baby. This woman here, I imagine, would probably be the slave that is looking after the children of the house. But I will let you choose who you want to write your diary entry from. You only need to choose one, and when you click on those people, it comes up with some audio for you. That means there will be a clip that will play. There's a little bit of writing for you, and they all say different things. So really pay attention to what is important in that person's life, because then you're going to take that information. You're going to visit the other websites that I've put onto Google Classroom as well to find out any more information. And then I would like you to write a diary entry from their point of view. So I had a quick go. I chose a little girl because it is easier to write from your own experience. And I was a little girl, so that's probably going to be easy. I can relate to her very well. That doesn't mean I can't choose the little boy or the mum or the dad. I can still do that. It's just a little bit easier sometimes to kind of draw on your own experiences and link it with what you already know. I know what it was like to be a little girl in in the 1990s. So I might have some similarities with the little girl from ancient Greece. But again, it's up to you. You can choose whoever you want to write your diary entry from. So I've had a go. Dear Diary. Remember, all diaries start with Dear Diary. Today has been such a busy day. Early this morning, I went down to the market with our slave to pick up the food and wine for our party tonight. We always have so many parties because we love celebrating. Today, we are celebrating the goddess Hygeia, the goddess of health. While we were at the market, I wanted to buy a new tunic for the party, but instead I have to wear my older sister's tunics instead. I'm so fed up of getting my sister's old clothes. They're always out of fashion by the time I get them. Even my sun hat is old and has holes in it. The sun is always so high in Greece. I should be given a brand new hat with no holes in to protect my skin. I just get so bored while my brother goes to school and I have to stay at home with mum and the slaves, learning how to cook and sew. My brother comes back every day to proudly show me all the bruises he got from sparring training, and he tells me new stories that he has learned. How is that meant to make me feel, really? So that was my example, and that really is just the opening. That is not a finished diary entry. That will probably be my first small paragraph. And I have kind of addressed in just that opening paragraph who I am, what sort of age I am, where I kind of live. If I'm going to market and I'm going with the slaves, and I'm probably going to be a rich person in a big house in the city. And I've given you a little indication of the climate that we've been talking about. It's so hot, it's so warm, I need clothes to protect me. So you can magpie by all means, magpie this diary entry. However, it is not finished. You must write a lot more than this. In fact, on the next page, I think I've told you. Yes, so I am expecting at least 1 page of writing from top to bottom, especially if it's typing, because we're faster typing than we are writing sometimes. So I'm definitely expecting a full page typed. If you are handwriting it, it's not a small page in a small notebook. It's an A4 page, the page that we would have in our workbooks at school. And I've put some questions on here to help you think about things that you're going to write about in a diary. So usually in a diary entry, we might talk about what did we do today? Who did we see? What did we wear? What was the weather like? And how those things make us feel. It doesn't have to be that something majorly exciting has happened in your day, because we don't always write in a diary only when something exciting has happened. But I really want to get a sense of what it's like to live in ancient Greece. Okay, so lots of description, lots of expanded noun phrases, remember that's when we use 2 adjectives for 1 noun. So instead of saying the chair, I might say the old rickety chair. So that would be my expanded noun phrase. Think about exciting language as well. Show, not tell. These are all things that we've done in English. All those skills that we've practiced, it's now your turn to independently apply them in this diary. Okay, so we will be online to respond to any problems, but your work is now on Google Classroom. Click on the Google document to start typing your diary entry. Don't forget to click hand in. If you don't click hand in, Miss Collis and I don't get notified of your work, and we don't go chasing individual pieces of work. We wait for those notifications to come to us, because otherwise I don't think we'd ever get to bed at night. It would take us so long to do that. So please remember to click hand in. Enjoy this task, and I look forward to reading all of your entries.